Hi everybody, my name is Karen and I'm going to do a video on how to thread the Elna 654 Serger with differential feed. I bought this machine a couple of years ago and I didn't get to use it very much because my house was under construction, but I had orders to fulfill and I was so busy actually sewing that I didn't have time to really play with my serger and get to know it really well. And I was frustrated and I was writing to the company and saying, I can't get a right tension, I can't get the right tension. I was looking at videos and reading books every chance that I got. And I finally decided that if somebody else buys this Elna Serger 654, the manual is not terribly helpful and there are no videos at this point in time. There's no videos on this particular model. So I thought that I would do one to help anybody else who has this model learn how to thread it properly. And I'll show you some things that I ran into, why I was not getting a nice tension, even though I was doing all the things they said in the videos, doing, the test samples and write it down, write it down, write it down. You can see that I spent a lot of time trying to get a nice tension on this machine. And I learned something really, really important, because it all really came down to one thing that was happening during the threading process that I was missing, and why I couldn't actually get a nice tension. So this video is going to show you how it is supposed to be threaded, what it's supposed to look like when it's threaded properly, what the tensions are supposed to look like. And I know it's a little bit of a lengthy video, but I think if you've bought a machine and you're having trouble getting a nice tension and you don't know how to thread it properly, some of these tips that I'm going to show you are really going to help you get through the frustration. So sit back and relax, and hopefully this will benefit you. Happy sewing. Bye. So what I'm going to do is walk through how to thread the machine, for one thing, what to look for in a good stitch, but also where I found that I was having the most problem. It's something that they don't tell you in the manual, and it's something you won't see on any other videos, because it's not usually a problem, but it's the problem that I had in getting a really nice tension. So first of all, I'll remove the little bucket. You can see that I have a 654 differential Elna. So if this is a machine you have, then this is how you want to thread it. First of all, I noticed that there's a difference between the yellow dots and green dots that are indicated as the thread guide in this part of the unit. They don't correspond with what's on the panel on the diagram design. So I was really conflicted with where I was supposed to put the threads when I was following the yellow dots for one and the green dots for the other, and I could not get a nice tension. And I finally noticed that there was a difference between the diagram here and the diagram here. So I called the company and I said, have you never noticed that there's a difference between the yellow and green dots in the actual thread guide and the panel? And they said, they went around to their different sewing machines and they noticed that 50% of the ones on their display had a conflict in those two illustrations, and they told me to use the diagram that's on the panel and not to go by the dots that are in the actual thread guide. So that's something to consider. But basically, here's what you want to know. When you're doing the upper looper thread guide is in the upper loops. Okay, so you want to stay along the path of the upper loops. You start with circling around that little aspirin dial at the top and coming straight down, and your first hook is here, and you want to follow the yellow dot to this next one, and then when you get down in here is where it starts to get a little bit complicated. So if I lower my dial a little bit, you can see that the thread goes from here to a hook here, and then straight up into the tiny little hook here, then straight across and into the looper. So basically, you want to remember that when you're threading the yellow, which is your upper looper, you stay in the upper thread guides. Upper, 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 upper. Because I say upper because below the upper, there are also hooks, okay? So all the lower ones are the ones that you're going to use for the lower looper thread guide. So the lower looper comes down around the loop at the top into this hook, then this hook, and then the bottom hook. There's two hooks here, one here and one here. You want to stay in the bottom channel. And then there's one hook here that both threads go through. So I have a yellow and green dot. That is not a mistake. Both of the threads are going through this one hook here, and then the lower looper branches off and goes on its own way through a hook here, and then you have the challenge of getting it in and behind the part of the unit that doesn't open up, and then back out again through the looper hole and then under your presser foot and away. So I'll show you what it takes for you to get that thread from here down and around in there and then out through this hole. There's a little lever in here. Here it is. There's a lever. When I push this lever, it will carry the thread to the back and then release it, and then I can thread it through the upper one, through the actual little hole. Now, I have another sewing machine, another serger machine. I'll just put the camera over here for a second and show you that I have another serger. And on this serger, my whole left side opens up, so I can actually thread my lower looper down and around and in through the bottom thread guides, and then pull my looper down and actually see it to thread it. I really miss not being able to open the left side of the unit so that I can see what I'm doing. So you have to rely on, this brand isn't made anymore, by the way. This is a white Superlock Electronic ATS 2000. It's not made anymore. It's a discontinued brand model. So when I was transitioning to this unit, I was really frustrated because I couldn't open the left side panel. So I'll close it all up. You can't sew unless it's closed up. I currently have my tension set for 3 and 3 for the needles, 3.5, 3.5 for the upper and lower, and I'm working with a lightweight Italian satin, and once I've got my tensions correct, then it just sews like a breeze. I'll just take it on a single layer of fabric and show you that as I serge away. Okay, another thing that I miss is I have a cutter on my other machine where I push a lever down and a little scissor or knife shows up at the back here, and then I just cut my threads off. I miss that a lot, but on this machine what they want you to do is carry the thread chain through to the back, take a really good hold of all 4 threads so that they'll all cut, and then you bring it up behind the lever that is the presser foot lever that takes the presser foot up and down. That's where you cut it. When you have a really good serge seam, that's what it looks like. All the threads are nice and straight and even. The loops connect on the outer edge of the fabric, and it really does work, and it works beautifully. I'm going to double up my fabric now and just serge along 2 layers and show you. I'll just tear this away and show you that now that I've doubled it up, I've got a beautiful tension upper side and lower side, and the loops meet along the edge, and it's exactly what it's supposed to be. And I can switch to a really flimsy organza single layer without changing any tensions at all, and just guide it through. I'll just pinch it off here and show you that on a single layer of fabric I get a really nice finish, and I didn't even have to change the tensions. Now for me that means 3, 3, 3.5, 3.5. So you know, even though the books all tell you to start at 4, 4, 4, 4 or even 5, 5, 5, 5, I found that for a lightweight satin and an organza I had to go with a less tense setting. Now what I'm going to do here is show you again that when it's threaded properly, this is what it looks like. The upper looper threads are along the upper channels and out, and so you see that this one is nice and straight as it goes up from this hook to this hook, and the other one goes straight in and behind it, and it comes out so that you can thread the looper, the eye of the needle. Now everybody knows about how to tie on. You just attach your threads, change your colors, and let your serger sew the chain so that all of your threads are attached. But at some point in time you're going to need to thread it from scratch. When you start having problems with it, you're going to have to take all the threads out and you're going to have to thread it yourself. And so what I'm going to do is disconnect all the threads and then rethread them and show you how to thread it yourself. So I'm clipping, 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 clipping all 4 of them, and I'll just run the machine and let all 4 threads run away. So I have nothing in the machine anymore. There we go. And my 2 threads, I'll just pull them out. So there you have it. Nice plain. Okay, so clipped all 4 threads, and I'm ready to thread the unit from scratch. I'm going to change colors and go to a pink, so maybe you can see it a little better. I've attached it to my upper looper spindle. I will come up through the very top hook of my antenna here, and I'm going to bring it down and get started on threading it. And the first thing I need to do is go through a hook that's on the right hand side and around a little round disc that looks like an aspirin that is to the left of the hook. Now, something I can tell you about right now is that occasionally you hook it in and you go down around the back and then slide it down into the front. Occasionally when you're sewing, when the threads become a little bit loose up here, you won't even notice it, but the thread will maybe do a double loop around that first hook, or even a double loop around the little aspirin disc. And you'll look at everything in here and say, well, it's threaded properly, why is it not giving me a nice tension? And then you look and look and look and you say, well, I don't understand it, why is it not giving me what I want? And I can show you what the result of that is. I have a sample here somewhere. Here's an example of what would happen if the threads went around either the first little hook or around what I call the aspirin dial. If it ended up going around either one or the other, or both, twice instead of once, no matter what you change in here, or no matter what you change in here, your end result is going to be that your upper looper travels along. It starts out okay, and you think, oh, good, I finally have a good tension. And then it'll start to weave in, and it'll go back to good, being okay. And then it'll weave in, and it'll be okay for a while, and it'll start to weave in. It sort of snakes in and out, and in and out, and in and out. And it won't matter what you set your tension at, because you won't be able to get that looper to stay consistent, and whether it's on 0 or 9. So the reason that happens is because the thread ends up loose while you're sewing away, and you don't notice it, but it ends up doing a little extra wrap around either the disc or the dial, and it changes everything. The whole gameplay goes out of whack from that point on. So you make sure that it's only in once, around once, and down through the tension disc. And here's something to watch for as well. In the manual it does show you this, that if you pull the thread, sort of make sure that it's taut in the tension disc, because if you can just touch it and it just falls out, it means you haven't got it between the 2 discs. It's going to be really important that you make sure it's settled in there. So I'm working on the upper looper. I don't have anything else threaded. I'm just going to come straight down through this channel here, and I come to my first hook, which I'm going to wrap from the right side. My second one is right here, and I'm going to wrap it from the right side. And then I'm going to go down to the first dot, which is the wrong dot. This is where there's a problem. There's a conflict between the display here and the display on the little door. There's a green dot here that's supposed to be a yellow dot, and a yellow dot that's supposed to be a green dot. Now that's just on my machine. Not all machines have that error. But remember that the rule of threading the upper looper is to stay in the upper guide. So I stay upper, I stay upper. There's 2 hooks down here. I want to stay upper. Simple as that. So I'm going to, and this is where it becomes a challenge, because I have to get it into that hook. So I'm going to take 2 hands to do that. And then I want to come to the next hook. Before I go straight up here, I want to go into the next hook, which is here. And on this one, there's a yellow dot and a green dot, and that's not a mistake. Both the upper and lower loopers are going to need to go through that one hook here. So I'm going to take it through there from the bottom, go straight up, and there's a little hook to catch it so that I can stay on the straight and narrow, catch it there, and then I just want to go through the looper, the eye of the needle. So I'll use my handy dandy tweezers to do that for me. And pull it, pull it straight out. I got my presser foot is in the up position, so I can just take it under the presser foot. And that one's done. Alright, and for my second one, I'll take the gold thread off, and I'll put a light pink on instead. So, on the spool it goes, through the antenna guide, and then I'm going to start working my way down, and I want to snap it into the first hook from the right side, around my little aspirin dial, around the left, make sure that it's in the tension discs, nice and firm, and then attach it to the first hook, and then follow the lower looper thread guide. So I'm going into there's two of these, I want to go in the lower one. There's two of these, I want to go in the lower one, even though on my unit it has a yellow dot, it's supposed to be a green dot, so I can ignore that. This is then come into the one that is shared by both the yellow and the green dots. That's normal. And then I want to be able to go in and around and behind the things that I can't see, and this is where I'm going to use that little lever. So I'm going to bring the whole unit forward a little bit so that you can see the lever. Now if I have this in the wrong position, the lever won't even it won't go behind. It'll run into the needle plate. Okay, so you need to set it so that it's low enough that when you use the lever, you can catch the thread and go in behind the needle plate. I mean the whole left side of the unit. So I have one more thread guide I need to go through here. I need to catch this one here on the left, and then. So now I've threaded it to the bottom, bottom, and the last hook here before I need to attach it to the little lever to send it to what I can't see that's behind this unit. I'm going to bring the thread straight up and behind this unit here, which is part of, it's part of the Serger that I can't move. I want to get my thread behind that because when the lever springs into action, it wants to grab the thread. So I need to either, get behind this unit that doesn't move so that my lever can grab the thread and push it through to the back. I'll bring the lever back, and my thread is now hooked to whatever it needs to be hooked on in the part of the machine that I can't see. I'm going to drop my looper down a little bit so that I can see to thread it and be able to pull the thread through from the front side to the back side. So I can see it here. I just want to make sure that this thing isn't in the way, that the two things aren't side by side, and then I have no way to grab that thread from the back of the looper needle. Okay, so there you go. Alright, so now my lower looper is threaded properly. It comes down, I have one hook, one aspirin shaped disc, through the tension dial. I have hook 1, hook 2 stay on the bottom channel, hook 3 is a yellow dot, then there's the next one is the one that's shared with the upper looper, then it has its own, all on its own, and then it's going to spring to the back, and it's going to come out and be threaded through the eye of the needle for the lower looper, and that's the hardest thing about threading the unit. Now I'm going to continue on with my other threads. I think I'll change from my off-white to white. And the needles aren't generally a problem for anybody. My thread's going to come up the back through my little antenna hook and get started on the pathway. I have that same hook on the right and a little aspirin shaped dial on the left. I want to go in it once, around it once, make sure it's in the tension guide, straight down here. And both of the threads for upper and left and right needles are going to travel pretty much the same guide. It's going to go straight across and come out at a little set of teeth that are here. I want to go into this top part of the unit, and I'm threading the right needle, so I'm just going to stay on this unit here. There's two slides where the threads can go. It can come in from the right or come in from the left. Because I'm doing the right needle, I'll stay on the right side. And the same thing for down here. There's this wire that wraps around both needles. It doesn't really matter, but I like to keep the right needle thread on the right hand side of that, that thread guide. So I'll put the left one on the other side, I'll keep the right one on the right side, and I'll just lower my looper needle out of the way a little bit so that I can thread the needle. Actually, I'm going to show you something. Here's something your book doesn't tell you about. I found this out by watching another YouTube video on a different Elna machine. On the left-hand side of your unit, you have a little drop-down door and a whole bunch of gadgets. Here. Right on the left-hand side. This one here, this little thing here, this is actually your needle threader. Your book doesn't tell you it comes with, your unit comes with a needle threader, but it does, and I'll tell you, it is a fantastic little unit. I'll try to explain to you how it works. When you hold the handle this way, it's really hard to see, isn't it? Okay, I'm holding the handle. Let's say I want to hold the handle so that it's straight up on the top side. Well, this little thing is a spring. A little white part of it is a spring, and what it does is it exposes this tiny little hook. Tiny little hook. Can you? I know there's no way you're going to be able to see that on the camera. There's a tiny little hook there. And the thing about the hook is that when I'm holding this needle threader on the top side, if I pull this spring back, what I can see is that the needle threader itself is shaped this way, okay? This way, which means I want to wrap my thread into it going across this way. And then I'm going to push it into the needle this way. So remember that the hook is like this. So I'm holding it in the upright position, and I want to wrap my thread in front of this dial. Just sort of catch it, okay, going from left to right, in other words, instead of from top to bottom. And then what you do is you just slide it down the needle. Oops, I lost my catch here. I'll go from this side to this side. I just want to slide it down the needle. And what happens as I slide it down the needle is when I reach the point of the eye of the needle, the spring will automatically push back and let the little hook go through the eye of the needle and let go. And now my needle is threaded. And all I need to do is pull it through from the back side. It doesn't make a very big loop, but that, you know, at least if you want to thread it using a thread guide, it's easier than, you know, using the looper. I mean the tweezers sometimes. So anyway, this is what this is. It's a little thread guide. They don't tell you about it in the manual. But anyway, it was a fantastic little thing. I'm going to get rid of my gold thread here. I'm going to do the other needle. I'll use a light pink for this one. I don't have very much thread on this one, so on the spool it goes up through the antenna, around the hook from the right, around the aspirin from on the left side. Make sure it's in the tension dial. It comes straight out, straight down, and out it goes. Then I just want to go across and make sure that it catches in that one. And I have this section here that has two entries, one for the right needle, one for the left needle. I just want to pop that left needle in. I want to stay pretty much on the left side of this needle thread guide. And if I want to try this thing again, I want to hold it upright, wrap the needle around it so that it's left to right, slide it along the needle, missed it, slide it down along the needle, and then poke it when it releases, when it's near the hole of the needle, the eye of the needle. It's like giving yourself an injection. And there you go. My presser foot is up, and I've got all 4 threads So now what you want to do is you want to test it on a couple of different fabrics, single layer, double layer. I'll show you what it looks like on the satin that I'm working with right now. I'll do a single layer of satin. I'll just slide it off here. And then I've got a really nice tension, upper and upside and back side. And then I'll double it up and show you what it looks like. I'll just put wrong sides together here just for the sake of showing you that it's surging beautifully. That's actually a little better. This is two sides. This is two layers of flimsy satin, and I've got a really nice tension on the front and a really nice tension on the back. I'll switch over to my organza here, and I'll sew a little bit on a single layer. I'm not changing any of the dials. So with a little bit of contrast, you can see that it gives me a really nice stitch on the top and the bottom. That's a single layer of flimsy organza. I haven't changed a single thing on my settings. Right now they're at 3, a little less than 3. I could put it at 3, 3.5, 3.5, which is what I started the whole thing out with. And now I'm going to double up and do 2 layers of organza without changing anything. I'll just serge it off here. So now I've got a nice tension on the top and bottom of 2 layers of organza. That's absolutely beautiful. Then I'll double it over, so I've got 4 layers of organza. And I'll just carry that through, and now I've done 4 layers, and it's even better. What a beautiful tension that is. Top side, bottom side, it's perfect. My settings, 3, 3, 3.5, 3.5 or so, plus or minus a little bit if you don't like it quite like this, but there you go. That's how you thread the machine, and those are the things to watch for. I hope that you got something out of this video, because I sure would have liked to have had a video when I was learning how to use the Elna 654. It really is a wonderful little machine. Don't give up on it. It's really quite fantastic. I'm very, very pleased with it. So maybe in another video I'll show you how to do things like a 2-thread overlock, a 3-thread overlock, and how to change to the rolled hem and things like that. For now, I have a basic 4-thread overlock, stitch length set to 2, cutting width set to normal, differential feed set to 1, pressure at the back set to 3. So those are all standard. They come with a unit. That's without changing a thing, just learning how to thread the machine. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you enjoy your 654 Elna Serger sewing machine. Thanks for watching.